All right, so we're going to be working on the dormitory assignment. This assignment, assignment to dormitory. It's not an assignment. It's assigning people to the dormitory. So Trident Technical College has 4 dormitories for incoming students. There's a dorm for female athletes, male non-athletes, and female non-athletes. So being assigned to the dormitory requires 2 different criteria: the gender and whether they're athletes or not. So we're going to have to create something different with that, and that's called an if else type of logic. But everything stays the same as far as the probable statement is concerned. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and copy this, which is the problem. Fairly simple problem, but it's a good way to get started on complex decisions. And we'll open up Notepad++, and I'll go ahead and paste it in. Okay. And the first thing we're going to look for is output. So after inputting the relevant information, the user wants to be told which dorm they will be assigned. So the output is going to be the dorm assigned. All right, and then next thing we have is our constants. So you can see that, let's see, fem non-athletes is going to be the boating dorm. And then we have the female athlete, and that is going to be equal to the Thornley dorm. So you can see, since I copy and pasted that up there, I can use that. Let's see, and then the male non-athlete is going to be equal to the Graham dorm, named after our Senator Lindsey Graham. And then our male athlete is going to be equal to McMaster. Now, the thing is, I can't leave these the way they are because I want to put this text into that place in memory. So I'm going to have to put quotations around each one of those. And quote, and quote, and quote, and whoops. So each of these, we want to take that text string and place it inside that place in memory. So there has to be quotes around it. All right, so then we walk down here and say, okay, well, this, I can't ask what dorm they're going to be assigned to. Control C. I have to do some logic. So in order to figure out that dorm assigned, we have 2 different criteria. One is the gender, and the other is whether an athlete or not. It doesn't make a difference which one we do first because they're both equal in that. We're going to see some assignments, some lessons later on where it will make a difference which decision we make first. But for this one, it doesn't make a difference. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with gender. And I'm going to say that if gender equals male, all right, so now we've cut in half. So males can either go to the Graham dorm or the McMaster dorm, but I can't assign that here yet. I have to make another decision. So based upon there, and we're going to indent that decision, and I'm going to say that if athlete equals yes, now I can assign the dorm. So the dorm assigned for a male who is an athlete, the dorm assigned is going to be equal to the McMaster one. So that's going to be male ath. So I'm going to take this, put it in here. Then later on, when we come down to here, I'm going to say, oh, well, stick whatever's in here into there. So why do we do this up here? Why don't I just say McMaster equals dorm assigned? And good question. We always want to put our constants at the very top because if later on Lindsey Graham gets voted out and somebody else gets voted in and they want to change the name of the dorm, we don't want a person having to dig through our logic trying to find where we typed in Graham. So instead, we always put our constant values at the very top so that it's easily changed without having to change anything within our code. All right, so we finished male, yes. So what we want to do is we want to keep, if, not it, if. We want to continue with what we call in the inner decision. So this is the outer decision. We want to finish up this inner decision first. So if they're not an athlete, that means else. And that means that the dorm assigned is going to be equal to the male. I should probably move this up a little bit. Is the male not athlete. So you can see how great bang for the buck you get with using using Notepad++. All right, so we finished what happens if they're male and they diss one of these two. So what happens if they're female? Now, what we don't want to do is if gender equals female, right? We already know that that can't be right because if it's not male, it's female. That's what we call a Boolean. So we don't need to test for gender. Gender is simply, whoops, else. Else means gender. But we do have to test to see if that female, so if it's else, it's female, is an athlete. So instead of doing that, we're going to do Control-C, Control-V. And this is the new thing we have for this one. This is a else if. And we use the combination to save a pair of braces. And I talk about that in the lesson, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here because we're already up to 7 minutes. All right, so if it's true, then the dorm aside. Now, what we can do is we can copy this, Control-C, put it over here, Control-V. So if it's true, and unfortunately it jumped all the way over there, didn't need to be all right over there, this is going to be, we're going to use the fem. So all I have to do is Control-C, Control-V, and Control-V. And I might just make these a little bit. So this else goes all the way over, goes all the way over to the left. And this matches up this way. Just want to make everything match nicely. So if it's male and they're an athlete, then we assign this. If they're not an athlete, then we assign them to that. If they're not a male, so this S goes to here, then we see if they're an athlete, and if they're an athlete, then they go to the fem athlete dorm. If not, then to that dorm. So we're almost done. We have two things here that we haven't yet identified, and that is gender and athlete. All right, so I have two inputs. Someone has to tell me what the gender is. So gender, and then in parentheses, since I'm looking for male or female, I'm going to say male or female just to make sure that someone's going to type in the right thing. And the next thing is going to be athlete. And that is going to be either yes or no, but not with a quote. All right, so notice I'm using all lowercase. If you want to use uppercase, so if I decided I liked this is prettier when I do my input, well, then I'm going to have to come down here and do that. And that's fine. You just have to be consistent. Then I would say this has to be F, and then this would have to be capital Y, and this will capital V no. So you can do it like this too. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just think it's unnecessary. If we do that now, this has to be capital yes. Oops. And this has to be capital yes. So you just have to be consistent. If you're going to ask a question with a capital letter, you have to use it in your tests down here. All right, so now we are done with that. Oh, we didn't finish scope. Only one student, and then assignments are based only on gender and athlete. And that's good enough. Those are two. This is a very simple problem. But now we're done, and we're ready to go ahead and flowchart to see if this actually works.